Alright, hello and welcome to another episode of Heywood and Stuff. If you've already been here before, thank you, welcome back, and if you're a newbie, join me. Hello. What are we going to be talking about today? Today we're going to be talking about some of the basic steps that you can take to help alleviate some of your ADHD symptoms. Some of these might seem quite generic, some of these you might have heard before, and some of these might be really difficult to do. When we talk about ADHD symptoms, there is a long list of ailments that makes day-to-day life a bit of a struggle. It's a shitty part of ADHD, everything from emotional dysfunction to forgetfulness, to restlessness, to lethargy, to not having any concentration, to having too much concentration, and everything in between. But I've whittled it down to some of the fundamentals. What do we as people want? What do we care about the most? I think the number one is well-being, is feeling happy, right? Ultimately, we all want to feel at peace with ourselves, and ADHD is like 3 trains on a bouncy castle covered in pina colada. It makes no sense, it's erratic, and it's difficult to comprehend. The other thing we want is to feel good about ourselves. So not just feeling happy, but feeling good about ourselves. We want a healthy relationship with ourselves, and we want healthy relationships with others. One healthy tip for you in situations where you are feeling overwhelmed, whether it be talking to a loved one or a family member, even potentially a work colleague, is that if you are suddenly feeling overwhelmed in a situation, not for everyone, but for some of us, it's better just to walk away before you get to that fight or flight fork in the road. I know that for me, my temper can bubble up really quite quickly with warning, but not with much. And I've got a few seconds to quickly intervene before I explode or get upset with a situation. And in those cases, it's like red alert time. Get the fuck out of there. Even if it looks weird, it doesn't matter. Just get out. So you've got a few minutes just to calm down, find your center, and then you can go back to the situation if it's possible for you. If such a situation does happen, remind yourself now to be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up too much. ADHDers often deal with a lot of guilt and self-loathing and confidence issues, and I think as a day mantra, it's really important to remind yourself, be kind to yourself, give yourself a break, remind yourself that you don't have full control over the way that your brain is. These reactions and the emotional deregulations is part of the disorder. Be kind to yourself, be kind to yourself, be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Obviously, this is easier said than done, and it does come with practice, like a muscle in the body. Exercise the mantra. Our ADHD brains are a little bit below the natural dopamine levels that a healthy brain desires, which means we are constantly craving dopamine. We are constantly looking for that sweet serotonin, that neuroepinephrine, I can't pronounce, but we're looking for the happy chemicals that we are slightly depleted in. Sleep. If you don't get, let me rephrase. If I don't get enough sleep, I struggle all day. I remember before, years ago, when I used to drink, my hangovers were so bad, and I used to really believe that it was just the alcohol that was doing it. But once I got sober, I realized if I don't have at least my 6 hours needed of sleep, my entire day is a struggle. My lethargy goes up, my irritability goes up, my lack of motivation and concentration, well, the lack of it goes up, but they both go down. It's almost as if all my symptoms heighten and get worse if I don't get enough sleep. Now, this is a difficult one to remedy because a lot of us ADHDers like to stay up late at night. It's the one time of the day where it's peaceful and people aren't expecting things from you, so naturally it's a safe place to be. But unfortunately, I've come to realize at the ripe, tender age of 36, it is going to be more fun spending the next day having had sleep. These ideas are just what you can fit into your routines, but I would urge anyone who's struggling with the symptoms of ADHD to try at least 1 or 2 of these for a week and see how it feels, because when you feel the benefits from it, suddenly it becomes a little bit more sexy, and the urgency and the desire to do these things like sleep, they increase, because we just love our dopamine. If you have good intentions to get a full night's sleep tonight, and then at 10:30 you get sucked into that new series, or you get sucked into that computer game, or you get sucked into talking to that new person in your life, or you get sucked into eating a full chocolate cake and watching your own TikToks, don't beat yourself up about it. It's fine. You've got tomorrow, you've got the next day. These are just tools in the bag to try, and if one night you're unable to get the tools out of the bag, so be it. Just crack on. The next one, probably my biggest struggle of the list that I'm going to give you today, but it's sugar. It's sugar in the form of ice cream, chocolate cake, biscuits, sugar, but also in the form of simple carbs, which is often overlooked. So pasta, white bread, brown bread to a certain degree. All these are going to spike your insulin, and you're ultimately going to crash from that, and you will feel lethargic. I notice in myself, if I have a very heavy carby meal or a lot of sugar in a small amount of time, pot of ice cream, what are you saying? I feel quite irritable about an hour afterwards. Your dopamine goes right up with sugar, right? You feel fantastic. It's all worth it. And then you crash, and then you're below your normal level of dopamine, which is already below the norm. Your symptoms are going to go up again. So sugar, it's a bitch, is possibly the most addictive thing out there that we can ingest. It's more addictive than some drugs, right? So it's a bugger. How do you stop having sugar? I mean, some people would call it willpower. Some people would say stubbornness. I don't know. I am still battling the addiction of sugar, and I have quit cigarettes, I have quit alcohol, I have quit taking drugs from a long time ago, I've quit lots of risky behaviors, and sugar is still the little bitch that comes back into my life. And it is as quick as I could have stopped eating sugar for 2 days, and I could be in a shop and I could be a little bit peckish. Boom, before you know it, I've got 6 biscuits in my mouth. Remember, don't beat yourself up about it. If you end up getting a huge bag of crisps and chocolates and binge, you end up crashing your heart out because of having too much sugar, and you feel bloated and disgusting, and the takeaway and all of that. It happens. It's like sobriety with alcohol. People fall off the wagon. You got to be kind to yourself. Okay, so in terms of having healthy relationship with yourself and with others, this is also a tricky one, but if you're in a relationship, or you live with family, or you're in close proximity to people at work, and there's those handful of people that you see on a day-to-day, because of your ADHD, you may fall out with them every now and then. There may be like a collision of ideas or personalities or emotions, or for whatever reason that you're falling out with people. I think it's quite healthy at first to look at yourself and go, how much of that was because of me? Was that my doing? I know for sure that I was in complete denial of the majority of the fuck-ups I made with other people up until my 30s, really. I justified that it was their fault because they made me feel a certain way. I took absolutely no responsibility for the way that I felt, and I took no responsibility for getting angry, and I took no responsibility for getting upset. As I got a bit older and I did a bit of research and I looked inward, I realized that a lot of the time it was me. And in fact, I had a lot of toxic qualities about me and a lot of toxic sabotaging thoughts and processes and all the good shit. Anyway, so once you get to that point, you kind of maybe be a little bit objective. My point is communication. If you know you've got ADHD, if you know that you have a short fuse, or if you know that you're emotionally dysfunctional, talk to those that are closest to you about it. I know there's still stigma with things that are connected to mental health, and I know that a lot of us have fears about being so open about our disorders, especially if we're just learning about them, but it goes a long way. I mean, those people that really matter, they shouldn't judge you, and they shouldn't isolate you because of it. And if they do, then they probably got work to do on themselves. Point is, by being able to communicate what's going on in your head, even if you're not 100% sure what's going on because you're still trying to figure it out, you give other people the opportunity to understand the situation a bit more. You also give them the opportunity to share their own experiences and what they're going through, and you never know, you might be able to connect on a level there just because they too have got some struggles that you weren't aware of. Fuck it, they might have ADHD as well. I can say for me, especially in the workplace, sometimes I have down days, and sometimes I really struggle to get on with things, and I can tell people at work. Generally, I'm quite chatty, but sometimes I'm quiet, and I'm sorry if anyone takes it personally, but it's not a personal thing, it's just something that I'm going through. And that really takes a lot of the pressure off me. In my romantic relationship, where there'll be a lot more disputes, obviously, because we live together and we're very close, but we're also different people and we've got different lives. Inevitably, there's going to be hiccups along the way. We're both ADHD, and so there are struggles there. But the struggle is diffused and doesn't sting as much when you can communicate about it. Now, I'm not saying that every time you're going to be able to communicate why you're feeling angry about something, our own insecurities, fears, because that's usually where these arguments are coming from. Communication. It can be scary to be transparent and communicate, and it takes a lot of work, and I fully appreciate that not everybody has the resources to be fully transparent with how they're feeling and thinking. A lot of people have gone through a lot, especially people with ADHD, where they're very reserved to speak about how they feel. But if you have got that ability to share your thoughts and feelings, if you can do it in a non-judgmental way where you accept responsibility and be kind of objective about something, it goes a long way. Also, don't beat yourself up about it. Be kind to yourself, just as you should be to those around you. That's some guru shit right there. That's some hippie shit. If you are attempting to try and get a good night's sleep because you know that you're gonna feel more mentally alert, less lethargic, and more in the moment, and feeling more alive, and your symptoms less shit. One trick to do this, other than no sugar, obviously, is to lower your caffeine intake. Try not to have coffee after 4 o'clock. And the big one, screen time. Screen time has been proven to keep your brain active, and so if you're on your phone until seconds before you put your head on the pillow, your brain is going to take time to switch off. It's a nightmare. I struggle with this one as well, especially because I'm a little bit TikTok obsessed, and so, you know, by the time I get my head down, my head is still wired from looking at my phone. And I've actually noticed, since being on TikTok, that my sleep has been a lot more irregular and less I can't trust it as much as I used to, you know. I used to know that I could go to bed and fall asleep, and now, like, I go to bed and I'm like, am I going to get to sleep that quick? Am I going to wake up in the middle of the night? Same. But you can still follow me on TikTok if you like. It's Heywood and stuff. Another trick, if you're trying to sleep, definitely works for me, is lo-fi, especially if I'm having an afternoon siesta on the weekend, is really good. You can find like ambient noises like crickets and the mountains and lakes. There's one in particular that I use every night at the moment, and it's called Swamp. And it is, you see the front cover of the video and it's a swamp and it's literally just crickets. And it's gorgeous. Another one that helps me get to sleep is to have a shower just before bedtime. This isn't for everyone. A lot of people with ADHD often struggle to remember having a shower. But for me, I've found myself getting to a place where if I don't have a shower, I don't feel comfortable because of my hypersensitivity to touch. And it's like I can feel the day on my skin. And by having a shower just before, or like an hour before, that means I can get into the bed and feel a bit more fresh. Helps me get to sleep. We just want to feel good, don't we? Please do consider subscribing because I enjoy doing these, and I would love to do it for much more time, and subscribing helps me achieve that goal. I'm gonna go. Thank you so much. You're beautiful. Bye. Thanks.